What's up, horror fans? Today we're diving deep into a forgotten gem from the early 90s that tried to give us a new slasher icon, but ended up being more of a medical misadventure. That's right, we're talking about 1992's Dr. Giggles, a film that proves sometimes laughter isn't the best medicine. The early 1990s was a strange time for horror. The golden age of slashers had pretty much flatlined, with franchises like Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street running on creative life support. The genre wouldn't get its much-needed defibrillator shock until 1996 with Wes Craven's Scream. But in 1992, director Manny Coto and Universal Pictures tried to breathe new life into the genre with Dr. Giggles, a film that attempted to create a new iconic killer while injecting some dark humor into the traditional slasher formula. The story centers around Dr. Evan Rendell Jr., played by Larry Drake, who you might remember as the mentally challenged character Benny from L.A. Law. Here, Drake trades in his gentle giant persona for something far more sinister. His character, nicknamed Dr. Giggles due to his unsettling nervous laugh, escapes from a mental institution after performing some impromptu surgery on a fellow inmate. And when I say impromptu surgery, I mean he literally rips the poor guy's heart out with his bare hands. Talk about starting your movie with a bang. Our good doctor then makes his way back to his hometown of Moore High, which sounds like the kind of place that should really have better security at its mental institutions. But here's where the backstory gets interesting. Years ago, Dr. Giggles' father was the town's family physician until he went completely off the rails, killing several patients, including his own wife, in some twisted pursuit of medical breakthrough. The townspeople, doing what angry mobs do best, took justice into their own hands and killed him. Enter Jennifer Campbell, played by Holly Marie Combs, who would later find fame in Charmed. Jennifer isn't your typical final girl. She has a rare heart condition that makes her particularly interesting to our medical murderer. It's a clever way to tie the killer's obsession with medicine to our main character's vulnerability, even if it feels a bit convenient. The rest of the teen cast is, well, exactly what you'd expect from an early 90s slasher. We've got the boyfriend, the best friend, the party animals, all essentially wearing future victim name tags. They're not badly acted per se, but they're about as memorable as a hospital waiting room magazine. But the real star here is Larry Drake as Dr. Giggles. Drake commits to the role with such gleeful abandon that it's impossible not to be entertained whenever he's on screen. He delivers medical puns with the enthusiasm of a dad who just discovered dad jokes. Only these come with a body count. Dr. Giggles carries around what must be the world's largest medical bag, filled with comically oversized medical instruments. We're talking giant reflex hammers, massive bone saws, and even an enormous Band-Aid. It's like if the Acme Corporation started manufacturing medical supplies. The kills range from the genuinely brutal to the absolutely absurd. One victim gets their mouth forced open with a speculum before being stabbed through the throat. Another gets their skull crushed with a blood pressure cuff. There's even a scene where the doctor uses a giant thermometer as a weapon. It's like watching a twisted version of Looney Tunes, where instead of anvils we get medical instruments. Each murder is accompanied by a groan-worthy medical pun. Time for your checkup. The doctor will see you now. Take 2 of these and call me in the morning. Drake delivers these lines with such maniacal glee that you can't help but chuckle, even as you're cringing at the violence. And this brings us to one of the most interesting aspects of Dr. Giggles, its tone. The movie seems constantly torn between wanting to be a serious slasher film and embracing its more comedic elements. On one hand, we have genuinely dark moments, like the flashbacks to young Evan discovering his father's crimes, or Jennifer dealing with her potentially fatal heart condition. On the other hand, we have our killer spouting one-liners while wielding cartoon-sized medical equipment. This tonal inconsistency might be a flaw, but it's also what makes Dr. Giggles such a fascinating watch. It's like watching 2 different movies fighting for dominance, one a traditional slasher, the other a dark comedy. Visually, Dr. Giggles is competently made, if not particularly innovative. Director Manny Coto, who would later work on shows like 24 and Star Trek Enterprise, keeps things moving at a decent pace and stages some effective sequences. The production design deserves special mention, particularly in the scenes set in Dr. Giggles' family home, which has been converted into a twisted medical facility. The set designers clearly had fun creating a space that reflects the killer's warped mindset. The score by Brian May, not the Queen guitarist, is appropriately creepy, mixing traditional horror stings with an unsettling nursery rhyme motif that plays whenever Dr. Giggles is about to claim another victim. Beneath its surface of medical mayhem, Dr. Giggles actually tries to explore some interesting themes about hereditary madness, the corruption of healing, and the thin line between medicine and murder. The parallel between Jennifer's literal heart condition and Dr. Giggles' metaphorical broken heart over his father's death is actually quite clever. Both characters are dealing with inherited problems, one physical, one psychological. There's also a commentary on the trust we place in medical professionals and how that trust can be perverted. Dr. Giggles' father betrayed that trust in the past, and now his son continues that legacy while believing he's actually helping people. Dr. Giggles wasn't a huge success upon its release, and it's not hard to see why. It arrived at a time when audiences were growing tired of traditional slashers, but before the genre's meta-revival with Scream. However, the film has gained something of a cult following over the years, primarily due to Larry Drake's committed performance and the film's unique blend of horror and dark humor. So, what's the final diagnosis for Dr. Giggles? Well, it's a movie that suffers from a bit of multiple personality disorder. When it focuses on Larry Drake's unhinged performance and embraces its more outlandish elements, it's genuinely entertaining. The medical-themed kills are creative, if ridiculous, and Drake's pun-filled dialogue is so bad it's good. However, when it tries to be a straight horror film, it falls into the same traps that were plaguing the genre at the time: generic teenagers, predictable plot beats, and a general sense of been there, done that. On our horror health scale, I'm giving Dr. Giggles a solid 5 out of 10. It's not going to cure what ails the genre, but it might just be the right prescription if you're in the mood for some campy medical mayhem. If you enjoyed Dr. Giggles, you might want to check out other horror films that mix comedy with kills, like Student Bodies or Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And if you're interested in more medical horror, films like Dead Ringers or Visiting Hours might be worth a consultation. Well, that's my examination of Dr. Giggles. What do you think? Have you seen this medical misadventure? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with your horror-loving friends. This is Creep Showcase Cinema signing off. Remember, laughter might be the best medicine, but in this case, it might just be fatal.